chapter 15, section 3. So let's take a look at life in Rome and what it was like. So the city of Rome had about 1 million people living in it. The empire as a total had about 70 million people in it. And Rome, a city of 1 million, had the same problem as today's cities. You know, not enough housing, air pollution, crime, high cost of living, unemployment, high taxes. The same things you'll hear about complaints in today's city. So let's take a look here at where the rich lived. The rich would live in a domus or a house. They're rich. It had glass windows and it had marble walls and colored stone floors, had a furnace in it for heat, pipes to carry water upstairs. So pretty decent, comfortable living. But this was the rich. Most people were not rich. Many people would live in what they called islands or apartment houses. An island would cover one entire block, 6 stories tall or higher. The bottom floor of the island was shops. So again, similar to kind of how city life is today. Families were extremely important in the Roman world. The father was the head of the household. His word was like law. What he said went. He would arrange the marriage of his children, even, to improve their social position or to increase the family's wealth. If you were a boy, you went to school until the age of 12. And then if you were poor, you went to work. If you were rich, you would go on to formal education, reading, writing, music, geometry, arithmetic, shorthand, things like that. At age 15, the rich would enter a school of rhetoric, speech and writing, trying to help prepare them for a political career. Some of the rich even went to Alexandria to study medicine or philosophy. If you were a girl, you went to school to the age of 12. And then if you were poor, you went to work. If you were rich, you would start taking private lessons at home. Wealthy women use slaves to do work. So they're free to study art and literature or fashion. Time to go pig sticking, which was a type of hunting that they did. So if you're looking at a Roman, what do they do in their leisure time, their free time? Well, there's a variety of things. Some would gamble at home with dice. Other times you might meet friends at the public bathhouses. And some of these bathhouses were warm water, some were cold water, some were just steam baths. More than just baths in some bathhouses too. It wasn't just about the water. Some of them would have gymnasiums or libraries or sports stadiums and things like that. In your free time, you also had time to watch free public games. These games would last from dawn to dusk. During the empire, the government put on the games. And they would include different entertainment, like there could be circuses or there could be chariot races. The most exciting chariot races would occur at the Circus Maximus, which was this huge oval arena. It would seat 200,000 people. Circuses, chariot races, gladiatorial games, gladiators. Most gladiators games were fought by whether it be slaves or prisoners of war or criminals or poor trying to win. Sometimes you would see rich that would fight for excitement or public attention. Um, the gladiators that would fight in these would appear at a feast the night before. So that way the fans could look over the fighters. Gamblers could check out the bets that they're making. Many gladiators would die in these fights. Um, some who live could still be killed if they didn't put on a good enough performance. They'd still be executed. Sometimes winners could gain their freedom, because remember, sometimes they're slaves or criminals or prisoners of war. You're going to see in a lot of these fights, you're going to see animals being used in the games. Sometimes the animals used were pulling chariots. Sometimes the animals were performing tricks. But most of the animals that are going to be used are going to fight either other animals or they're going to fight a gladiator. Some animals, actually, because of these gladiatorial games, some animals actually get completely wiped out. For example, the Mesopotamian lion was killed so often in these games that there's no such thing as a Mesopotamian lion anymore. Just like the North African elephant doesn't exist anymore either, because of the Roman Empire and these games mostly.